Yo, what's going on, guys? RyGo here with Matt Kite. So this week I'm going to do a video that people have been asking about forever, and first this video I've done quite a while as well. But yeah, we're going to do the Moto versus the Evo, and these kites are kind of similar in some ways since they're like the three-strut do-it-all kite in the lineup, but they're actually very different kites, and I think aimed at a very different rider. So let's get into this one. All right, so back to back, just to get right into it. I mean, if you were to ask me to sum up both of these kites, I would say the Evo is like a true do-it-all, kind of aimed at big air riders, really fun, versatile, free ride kite. And for the Moto, I feel like it's more of like aimed at those foil boarders. It's more for people who want to get out and do light wind surfing, but it's also crossing over into some of that category with the Evo, where it still is an all-around kite. It's a do-it-all kite. It's really whippy, fast, three struts. So the first difference that I noticed is, as far as jumping, I felt like they were similar as far as like the response in the kite. So when you pull on the bar, the kites kind of have a very fast, quick, snappy response to them. The Evo, I think it's easier to get more hang time with. So the Evo, even if you were to lay these on the beach, you can kind of see with the canopies, pound for pound, 12 meter versus 12 meter, that Evo just has a bit more loft to it. And then with the Moto, I feel like its strengths really come down to like the driftability, the foil characteristics. So like when you take an Evo and a Moto out on hydrofoil board, I would take the Moto over the Evo on a foil board, even though I know a lot of guys do foil with the Evo, but I just think it's more aimed at like people who are jumping, people who want to rock up wind easy, and still want, again, that crossover where they're both three-strut, fast, playful kites. Other things that I noticed on the water, I feel like the Evo probably also is a bit more rangy. So I feel like you're going to get a little more bottom end and a little more top end, which again is a trait that I would expect from a do-it-all free ride kite, or something kind of aimed at like those, I don't know if big air is the right word, but people who like to jump, people who like to float and spend, well, yeah, you could say big air. People do take, I think people do use the Evo for big air as well, so it's a good contender for that. So in my experience, I feel like this kind of comes back to that classic thing I always talk about, where when you're more experienced and you know how to work a kite, you know how to edge a board correctly, you can match most kites up pretty evenly with the range. So when I say wind range, it's not like immediately by default the Evo's got a bigger wind range. What I mean is it's easier for a newer rider probably to get upwind in some lighter winds on that Evo, whereas an experienced rider might not notice the difference as much. And so with the top end range, pretty similar experience. I felt like the Evo just had a touch more stability. And my take on it is, this is probably because while these kites do seem like they're similar, and people are always asking how do you compare these two, I don't really think it's a fair comparison, because they're different tools that are designed for a different reason. So if I were going to go out surfing in the waves, I would take the Moto out in the waves. If I were going to go hydrofoiling, I would take the Moto out. And even, yes, for free riding, back row kite loops, hand drags, all that stuff, like the Moto kills it for it. But because it is aimed at wave riders, and because it is aimed at foil boarders, you're going to notice some of those wave kite traits, and that's why you see like a little bit less power on the low end. And the same thing with the high end, because that kite, it's built for that particular purpose. And I mean, if you were to look that kite up online and you could see they call it like the triple threat or something like that, like waves foiling, I forget what it was. And then the Evo, it's really more free ride and big air. I did just recently do a video about the Moto where I talked about this before, and in my experience, experienced kiteboarders, those guys who are ripping and doing all the old school tricks, doing kite loops and getting out there, they love the Moto. Like, it's super popular back home in Lake Michigan. Pretty much all of the original core riders that I knew when I first got into the sport, they're riding the Moto. They love the Moto. So if you're trying to decide which kite is right for you, I think you have to ask yourself some questions. And the first question would be, what is my aim in the sport? Am I more into hydrofoiling? Do I like surfing in the waves, but also want to have a do-it-all kite that's really free-ridey and fast and loopy and fun? Then you might want to look to the Moto. But if you're somebody who's more into big air, maybe you're a little bit newer, or maybe you just want something a bit more rangy, something that is going to be a bit easier in the lighter winds and also have a bit more top-end stability, lofty, I think in that case, then the Evo might be a good choice. And yes, you can foil with an Evo. You can go on the waves with the Evo. But yeah, just my 2 cents on it. You know, if you have any further questions on these kites, just let me know. I'll try to answer them in the comments or get some team feedback on what they've experienced with them. But I think they're both great kites aimed at a specific rider who wants to do specific things. So when it comes down to making a choice, you got to figure out what you want out of your kiting, and then it becomes easy. So if you found the video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.